We were in a bookstore at the Naval Academy, and suddenly I turned and saw my daughter turning 360 circle, and her eyes flashing, going sideways, and to the point where she convulsed and then fell over. And the girl came behind the counter and said, I'll call 911. And I said, that's fine. She just looked at my daughter and said, your daughter has epilepsy, right? We started to question her instructors and teachers at school. They said that she had periods where she was staring into space, and they didn't quite know where her focus was. It morphed into she had photosensitive epilepsy and would have seizures at railroad stops with flashing red lights or TV screens, computer screens, and then, eventually morphed into grand mal seizures. April's life changed dramatically. A lot of her school activities that she wanted to do, such as swimming and choir, there was always a seizure involved in there, so that kind of put a stop to that. She didn't make it through graduation. I sat with her through rehearsals, and she did okay, but on graduation day, the stress got to her because she's vulnerable, and she had a seizure within 5 minutes of sitting down. There wasn't any method that had found its way to create stability for April in terms of being seizure-free. She had already gone through about a dozen meds. None of them really helped her. They're all harsh to the body. They all have, for her, hideous outcomes in terms of her mood and behavior range and her aggressiveness as a person. So for her own welfare and to take away the chance of mortality because of a drop seizure in an accident, we decided to go with the recommendation of a neurologist in terms of having a corpus callosum, which is a procedure that cuts the brain hemispheres. The byproduct of that, about 10%, have a chance of having some type of left side paralysis. April hit the lotto, she got that 10%, and so her mobility lessened from there. She used to love to ride a bike, can no longer do that. She's to the point at 29 now that she's in a wheelchair. But she also knows that this is who she is, and she makes the best of it.
Every time I hear a story from a parent who has a child with uncontrolled seizures or who has recently lost a child, I can't help but picture my children in that situation, and it breaks my heart. What is not appreciated by the larger community is how devastating it is, how devastating it can be, and how the drugs aren't doing what people think they're doing if they don't know from a personal perspective.
Cure's impact in the scientific field has been monumental. We weren't even talking about a cure 15 years ago. We were talking about limiting seizures and minimizing side effects. And that wasn't good enough. When you're in the lab and you're focusing on your experiments and writing papers and writing grants, you're not always thinking about how this is going to affect the patient. And everything that we do at Cure takes the patient at heart. And not just one patient, not just a patient like my daughter Savannah, who developed epilepsy at a young age and was intractable and now is an intellectually disabled adult, but also the war veteran that's coming back that has traumatic brain injury, the adult in their early 20s who develops focal epilepsy and can't drive. All of these people are considered at Cure.
Cure is the largest non-governmental funding agency for epilepsy. We've been able to fund those grants where there's not a lot of preliminary data, but conceptually the hypothesis is unique and could be game-changing. And a number of the grants that Cure has funded have done exactly that.
Cure is an exciting place for me to work because they think strategically. And we aren't just looking at individual pieces of the research and little corners of the scientific universe looking at epilepsy and saying how they can move each little piece forward, but it's looking at the field as a whole and saying how can we move the entire field toward a cure.
It's hard to imagine, how fast the science is changing today. An investment in Cure is an investment in good science that will lead to a change in how we're thinking about epilepsy and how we're treating epilepsy tomorrow.
It's such a devastating condition. I don't want people to have to sit in a car one day and think about brain surgery versus no brain surgery, and neither one of them being good options. You know, that's why I'm in it. Football's my passion, and I'm all the way in. Winning a Super Bowl is a goal, and certainly that's extremely important to myself. And what would be even greater is that we can find a cure for epilepsy, and that my daughter could stand on her own and enjoy it just as much as I would.